friends, Jerry Rosa here in the Rosa Stringworks workshop with another project. We've got Bill Cochran here from Illinois, and he is staying up at the rental retreat. Tell him a little bit about the rental retreat.
It's very spacious. It's absolutely beautiful, spotless, and peaceful.
Good. So you're enjoying it so far?
Oh, love it.
Okay, good. Well, he brought me kind of a special guitar. Now, he says that Bob Dylan actually owned this guitar.
Or one like it. The guy claimed it. Can't prove it.
Can't prove it, but he claimed that Bob Dylan owned this. Whether he did or not, I don't know. It's a Takamine, and it's kind of a Mossman patterned head and neck. Just your more or less standard dreadnought shaped body. Well, he said that it didn't have any finish on the top. Is that right?
It was all powder.
So he put a nitrocellulose lacquer finish on it. The bridge on this is the problem. That's what we're here for today. I'll give you a close-up of the bridge. You can kind of see it's broke across here, got a crack through here. More than likely, the saddle wasn't right for it and caused it, to pull across and bust it. So we're just going to get busy here and get this bridge off of here if we can. I hope we don't run into any problems. Here on the desk, we've got my homemade bridge heater. Just turned it on as I turned the camera on, so it's only at 72 degrees right now. Now that's Fahrenheit. I have it set for 420 degrees, and I may boost that up some more depending on how much of a challenge this bridge is to get off of here. But right now, since this is not going to be a real interesting video, I'll just wait till this gets up to temperature and then we'll show you the next step. Okay, it's only been about 5 minutes. The thing is up to 431 degrees, which I told you the max is 420 is where it's set right now. Well, it fluctuates a little bit. It goes up and down, and it has a computer brain in that thing that will control the temperature. So it overshoots it a little bit, and then it drops back down, and then it kind of keeps it right around that 420 after it gets acclimated. Heating up my little tool. This is an old artist's palette knife, and I shortened it up and sharpened it on the end. It's a good stiff thing, and it's small so that if you get anything really big, you're trying to force such a big area, you can't force this under there. So this, for me, works really good. So I've got a little aluminum tray. I can set this on while I'm trying to test it out here to see if it's going to loosen up or come off yet. Gonna heat the ends a little bit too with this. Doesn't take long to heat up the knife, I can tell you that. Alright, let's see if we've made any progress yet, and I got to get it under here very carefully. It's hot enough that it's melting the little finish that's right around the edge there. There's always some damage when you do this. There, it's going in a little bit. Going in a little bit more right there. At least it's going to be the kind of glue we can get off of here, I think. So that's a good thing. Yeah, it's going in there crazy easy, actually. Maybe it was already loose. It's so crazy easy. No, it's getting hard there. Probably need a little more heat now again. But so far, this is one of the easy ones. I shouldn't say that on camera because you know what that means, don't you? Whenever you say something like that, something usually blows right up in your face. But so far, it is very easy. I do have a video on making that little bridge heater, so if you think you need to make yourself one of those, on my website under the For Sale tab, I believe. If you look down at the bottom, there's a link to the videos on that. Not that I sell them, but I didn't really have a better place to put it on my website, so that's where I put it. Popped it off of there. Very little damage, a little bit right there, but that's almost nothing when it comes to these kinds of things. Very little damage. So Looks like it might have chipped a little bit of finish right there. It did. It pulled up a little tiny bit of finish right there. Stuff happens, you know. You just wished it didn't happen, but it did. So we'll fix that too. Put a little drop of finish in there. But when I build the new bridge, I'm probably going to make it a little bit bigger than this one anyway, so it'll probably cover up most of that anyway. Next job is to clean this all up. Well, actually, maybe the next job is to make a new bridge and then clean this all up to fit the new bridge spacing. So I'll show you what I decide as I decide it. As you can see, I've got my 2 strings on here. I don't have them up to tension yet. Bill brought a ebony bridge for this. This does have a rosewood fingerboard, but it's not the first one I've ever seen where we mixed rosewood and ebony. Personally, I don't have a problem with that. Some people really don't like that, but me personally, I think it's fine. I don't see a problem. Ebony bridges are hard to beat. That's all I can tell you. I've found a saddle. It's a bone saddle that fits this bridge just perfectly. So I'm just going to see if we can make this work for intonation and if it will still cover up the scar. Otherwise, we may have to make something custom. But right now, we're going to see if we can make this work. So I'm going to go ahead and tune this up to pitch. And let's test the intonation. Well, it's pretty close. If anything, it's a hair flat, if anything. Now, let me check it again. It's about 10 cents flat at the moment. That just means this is too far back, which is kind of good. We can move it forward just a little bit. 5 cents now. Let me go to this side and see what we got. I'm going to go ahead and bring it up to the full E pitch. Right on the money.
Wow.
Right on the money.
I could hear that.
That's pretty close to... This one's pretty close to on the money too. It's really not far off. That's right on the money now. I moved it just a little bit. I'd say we're good. I'd say we're gold right there. I don't see any reason to reinvent the wheel if we can use that one right there. Save a lot of time and money and effort. It appears to be a fairly good quality bridge, so I don't see any reason to not use it. How do you feel about it, Bill? Is that okay
I like
with you?
it. Sure.
You like it? Okay. I think we'll go with that. So now that we've got this in the place where we want it, I put a brand new blade in my X-Acto. These X-Actos are hard to beat. I think they're even better than the scalpels because their tip is so tiny. Very, very good for marking. But that tip is brittle as glass and it breaks off. So you got to just use it for marking, really. But it's great for this marking purpose. And I'm just going around and I'm scribing where the bridge goes. We're getting rain outside, so if you can hear that in the camera, that's what's going on. Before I commit to that, and scratch the finish over here, I am going to measure it just to make sure we're not really far off. I'm kind of laying it up by eye based on what I'm seeing here with the center line crack and the center of the bridge, but I also want to just check it to see if we're really crazy far off. So to the lining up with this straight line here, we're about 3 7/8 of an inch, and we're pretty close. If anything, we're just a hair further here, which I was hoping we could move it this way, but we're already further here. So I think we're good right where we're at. I don't think we should move it. I've got it marked as well as I can mark it with my X-Acto, so we'll move this out of the way there now. Back here, it's pretty much right on the line. Up here, I'm going to be cutting off a little bit of the finish, which I think is a good thing. And Over here, just a little bit of the finish. Everywhere else, it's just about right. So I've got my other little tool here that I use. You know, you could just use a plain old chisel, don't get me wrong, but I like this because I'm using a planer blade, one of those little 10mm finger plane blades, and it's got a round bottom on it, and the end of it's round. And I just put it in a block of aluminum. This was just in the scrap pile. You don't need this knurled knob or anything. That's just the way it was in the scrap pile. And so I just cut a little angled slot in there, and then I beveled the bottom of it off so I can get down low. The advantage of this is I can twist it and curl it and just pick that little finish right off. And because it's only hitting in one little tiny spot, where if you had a big flat square blade, then you're digging in, you're gouging, your corner's always gouging. This has no corner to gouge, so it really works very well for doing this very detailed cleanup. First thing I always do is cut the perimeter, and then I go through and scrape out the internals and get it all flat and straight. This can be a little tedious, and some of them are much harder than others. This one's a little bit difficult in that it doesn't seem to want to flake off like some of them do. This finish is not quite as hard as some finishes. Pretty much got it straight across here now, just the corner over here and the corner over here. Now the difference is here, the grain runs the opposite direction, so you can get a little different reaction from the wood, the way you're peeling it off there. Essentially what I'm really doing now is I'm just planing the very lightest top layer of the wood off to get rid of the glue and the wood and the unevenness, because there's a lot of unevenness here. And I just want to get it good and flat and dry wood. That's what I'm looking for. I like to scrape at a 45-degree angle so I'm not grabbing the grain too much. There's still quite a bit of embedded glue down in here. This bridge has been off this guitar more than one time. I'm just positive of it. But I'll bet it won't come off again. Got to get rid of all that glue. There's just a ton of old glue in there, and that's the one thing I know for sure is this Titebond does not stick to old glue very well. In fact, really no glue sticks to glue very well except CA glue. CA glue sticks to itself better than it sticks to anything else. Unless you're dealing with CA glue, you really want to get all the glue off that you can get off. I think I still can see quite a bit of glue in there, and I would really like to have it down where there's really no glue at all. Pretty locked in there, not quite as good as I like to see them sometimes. I think we got some glue right along this back edge here that's building up, that's giving me problems. It's coming a frog strangler out there right now. I think that's pretty good. Probably good enough. Pretty solid right there now. I think we can clamp that and it'll stay. I'm going to kind of go about this a little bit awkward, to be perfectly honest with you. We could try to fill these holes. They're not much smaller than a 1/4 inch anyway. And the problem is they've got glue in them. They're just not perfectly round. I think I'm just going to round them off with a 1/4 inch drill, fill them with a 1/4 inch rod, and let that set first and get flat and plane it off flat, and then we'll put the bridge on, because I don't think these holes are going to line up perfectly, and I think it'll just make sense to fill these first. You can see all the junk it took out of there too, so I think that was a good decision to clean the hole out. And then this rod should fit the hole really tightly, because I did a test, and so we should be able to make that work. Maybe I'll just cut several to the right length, maybe make them just a hair long, and that we can poke in there. So let me decide how long that needs to be, and I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to decide that. Put that block under there and we'll measure this, and that's a 1/4 inch also, longer than I thought. It's actually 258 thousandths, so we'll cut a bunch of these at about 265 thousandths, and we'll fill those holes with that. I made enough plugs to fill these holes. I've cleaned up the holes, got the little fuzzies off of them. I'm going to get the glue on here. Of course, on camera, this always has to clog. That's a given. I should have checked that first. But I think I unclogged it there. Used my teeth. I know I shouldn't use my teeth for that, but I did. Slap my hand. Let's see if I can get it down in the hole. That's the tricky part, because it is a tight fit. I'll just use the back end of a chisel to see if I can force it in there. Looks like it's going to go, just barely. Put my finger under there, and it filled the hole nicely. As you can see right there, it's pretty full. It's been about an hour, a little bit longer actually, since I put these in there, and the glue is dried, and they're standing up just a tiny bit proud of the surface. So I've got my little trusty finger plane, and I'll just clean them off. Can't even feel them now, so they're there, and it's good. I'm just taking my finger plane. I'm really good at using this finger plane to flatten things, and so I'm just making sure everything's flat here. Feels pretty darn good to me. So I think we're just about ready to glue this baby back in there. It's not quite as locked as some I do, but it's definitely in the right spot. Okay, we are all set up here. I have cleaned up the inside of this too, and I've got a caul that seems to fit it like a glove. I'm just hoping that everything's going to fit here height-wise. So I think I'll test it dry first before I get the glue on it. It's just not that easy to test everything like this. See, it seems like it's easy on camera, but when you have to reach in there and hold that and get a clamp in there, and there's a brace in the way, and etc. and so forth, it just isn't that simple. Well, there's going to be plenty of height. There's no problem there. And as I always say, you want 100% coverage. And I like to use a brush for this because I like to go back and forth and make sure every little tiny grain of wood has glue on it. You'd be surprised how you can go over that and it'll hold, the air will hold it up and the glue doesn't get down in there. You work it in like that and you just take your time. There's no rush on this part. I've already toothed up the back of this. And when I say toothed up, I like to keep it flat. Don't get me wrong. It's barely got any scratches to it at all. It's not like deep grooves because the flatter surface glues better than a grooved surface. But when I say toothed up, I mean I'm just taking the sheen off of it for the most part. It gets glossy slick. These hardwoods do. And so I basically just took the gloss off of it, and then I even wiped it with acetone to get the oil out of the wood, or some of the oil out of the wood. Got a pretty good idea how I want that all lined up there, so I'm going to go get a rag and a damp cloth and clean this up a little before I put the clamps on. The main reason I do this is not so much for the glue cleanup as it is for the alignment. I want to be able to see it better to make sure the alignment is good. The alignment looks pretty darn good. I think I'm going to go with that. The bracing in this is pretty tall. It's actually taller than the caul is, which is a little unusual. And all you really need to do in addition to this is chew bubble gum and walk at the same time while you're doing all this. Just checking alignment again before I really commit it down there, but I believe it looks good, so I'm going to go ahead and tighten this one down some. And then I set these down in place. I don't really tighten these up a lot. I just get them a little bit past snug. And then I like to use additional clamps. Some people don't use these additional clamps, but I do. And I think this is what makes the difference. Some people say you squeeze all the glue out and it doesn't hold. I say bah humbug. Squeeze every bit of it out you can. I've never had a joint come loose that I've done this way. And I can say that that's the truth. In all the years I've been doing it, I don't believe I've ever had one come loose. At least I haven't heard about it if it did. And everything's fully guaranteed. And I've had a few things come back in my life, but not that many. And nothing on glue joints. Now look at all that glue squeezed out of there. That tells you you got it, made it up really well, and you can't do it much better than that. I don't see how it could be any better than that. We'll let that set overnight, as a matter of fact, or at least until late afternoon at the minimum. But I prefer to leave them set overnight when you're doing something with a big, large area like that. So that's probably what we'll do. Well, good morning, my friends. It's not yet 7:30 a.m. the next day, and it's time to take the clamps off this. So there you have it. Now we need to drill the holes. I generally start with a 3/16 inch drill. That's usually a little smaller than you need to end up with, but that way it gives you room to grow it out if you need to. Here's the saddle we have for it, so that looks like that's going to fit just fine. I think the customer said he has some bridge pins. He's not yet in the shop this morning. I think he's got some bone bridge pins. I'm going to look in the case and hopefully they're in there. These are the bridge pins. He had them in an Altoid case, and he has a whole bunch of them, and I pulled out 6 that look like they match pretty well. I'm going to bevel the back of all of them off. I'm filing a bevel into this, and the reason I do that is so that the little string ball doesn't sit on there. That way you can see that the ball can slide right off of there. It won't sit on there like they will if they're blunt. I'll just go ahead and file them all at once. That takes care of that little situation. Okay, you can see they're all sticking in there, but they're not going nearly far enough in, and that's because that 3/16 inch hole is always a little small, but that's a good place to start. Probably have to go at least to the next size bit before I can even get my reamer in the hole there. I just use a violin peg reamer most of the time, and that usually works. Depends on the pin though, I have to admit. So I've had issues where it didn't work. This really is almost ready to start in there, but it doesn't quite start. So I'll go to the next size drill. And the next size in this kit is 13/64. So for all you metric folks out there, good luck figuring that out. Off camera, I vacuumed out the guitar again, and all the pegs fit flush down in the holes. So we can probably start putting the strings on here. I think I probably should show you my technique for putting these in. Some people just think this is so simple and take it for granted, but sometimes it creates problems. So what I do is I kind of put the string on the end of the ball there, and I kind of work them down through the hole together, and then I let the pin go on past the ball. I keep tension pulling up on the ball so that the ball is up tight against the top of the guitar. Then that pin slides in there and it's not coming out. So it's just a good way to ensure that you've got your ball up against the bridge plate. The customer is using DR strings. This is the kind that he's putting on there, corrosion-proof DR. It says the handmade string made in USA. They appear to be phosphor bronze. In fact, here's the case. They look like really good strings, I got to tell you. The cool thing about these strings is they came with an extra B and an extra E. So that's kind of nice. I don't know what they cost. If they don't cost significantly more, well, it's nice to get those extra strings. Just thought I'd pass that on to you in case that's something you're interested in. So Bill's guitar is finished. We went ahead and put the strings on it. Believe it or not, it didn't take any additional setup. The saddle that I picked out and put in here, it's like a 1 in a million chance, but it worked absolutely perfectly. The action is 80 on this side, 70 on this side. It had one little minor tiny buzz on this first fret on the big E, and all I did was just kind of bevel out the frets right here, just kind of feather them. It just took, he saw me, what, 5 seconds? Yeah. It just took 5 seconds to feather that out, and then, put it right back, put the string right back on, no more problem. Plays really good, sounds really good. So this was apparently number 23 out of 24 that made like this one, which is kind of cool. So there's one last look at it for you. Really nice sounding guitar. Really nice book matched wood on it. You can see how it's got that spot there, and it's on that side too. So, it's pretty cool the way they book matched it. So Bill, I guess, are you happy with your guitar?
Oh, I'm more than happy. I am more than happy.
Well, good. I'm always glad to hear that. How did everything turn out up here this weekend?
Well, the ranch house is just so fabulous. It's beautiful, clean, well lighted. It's everything you want, and it's in a good area to go hiking. If you want to go hiking, it's got everything you could want in a place out here. It's a beautiful place.
Your wife seemed to kind of enjoy it.
Oh, she totally loves everything.
Well,
and she usually will go in and find fault, like in hotels especially.
Yeah.
But boy, she couldn't. She just kept going, I can't believe it. It's like it was made for me. So, and it is. It's made for anybody who.
Bill's wife and my wife kind of hit it off, and they had a good time walking around and seeing things here on the farm. So, anyway, I thank you, Bill, for coming and spending the time with us, and I'm glad we were able to get your guitar fixed up. I do not think you will ever have a problem with that bridge again. Thanks for watching, guys.